Welcome to this episode of Preaching the Word, a video series on preaching sponsored by the Dunk Tank and the Berman Ministry Center. My name is Dr. Stephen Reasor, and I'm a preacher and author, and I teach preaching at Berman University in Lacombe, Alberta. In this final episode of the different forms or shapes that sermons can take, we're spending some time talking about bringing dynamic into your sermon. In other words, how can you speak and move in such a way that lends credibility to what you are saying and helps the congregation hear your sermon? Vocal dynamic is achieved through changes to your tonal quality by varying your volume, pitch, inflection, and pacing. So volume means loud or soft. And there are some things that need to be said loud, like happy, excited, angry, and commanding things. These are often loud. Other things are best communicated through a whisper. So secrets, insights, fears, and sorrows are often very quiet. No sermon should be loud from start to finish, nor should it be quiet, or even at a normal volume. Some parts should be louder or softer than others. Yelling or whispering through the whole sermon will tire your audience. I had a university professor who was very animated and spoke loudly every moment of his lectures. I had trouble not falling asleep as he taught because there was no dynamic. It was all just loud. So as you write your sermon, note those parts that should be a little louder and those that should be quieter than normal. And then as you practice your sermon, practice changing your volume to see if it feels right. Next is pitch. Along with volume, vocal pitch communicates certain things and must vary throughout the sermon. Low pitches convey authority and power, anger, empathy, and sorrow. Higher pitches convey stress, joy, celebration. If I say, "I'm so sorry," it conveys empathy. But if I say, "I'm so sorry," it conveys anxiety or fear. I can say, "Congratulations," and make it sound happy. Or I can say, "Congratulations," and make it sound menacing. When a part of your sermon needs to express a certain emotion, practice adjusting the pitch and volume of your voice to fit. The next part is voice inflection. And this is another way to add a subtext of meaning. In conversation, we naturally use inflection to create emphasis and help the hearer understand our words. So let's take the phrase, "the girl in the red car." Without inflection, we don't have a focal point. But with inflection, we can imply the context and meaning of the phrase and remove other possible interpretations. The girl in the red car means it isn't the boy in the red car. The girl in the red car means we're not talking about the girl beside the red car. The girl in the red car excludes blue and gray and black cars. The girl in the red car identifies the type of red vehicle as being a car and not a truck or a bus. So practice your sermon and note what words or words need to be emphasized in every sentence. Proper inflection makes it much easier to follow the meaning of your words. The next factor is variety and pace. As mentioned in the previous video, you can speak quickly and propel your sermon forward during certain parts of your stories and sermon. But then you need to slow down, maybe even pause at other parts. A dynamic pace tells your hearers when to pay attention closely and when to sit back and see a broader picture of your sermon. If you create dynamic through changes to your volume, pitch, inflection, and pacing, your sermon will become more than a series of words and phrases. It will be a living word, alive in the hearts and imaginations of your hearers. The other type of dynamic is body dynamic. Body dynamic is enhanced by modifying your stance and movement. Stance refers to how your feet are situated in relation to each other and to your torso. A wide stance is more stable and strong, whereas a narrow stance could indicate a non-assertive stance. Leaning forward shows interest and energy, and leaning backward signals reticence and fear. Dynamic means changing your stance to fit the nature of your message at each point in the sermon. Some preachers move throughout their sermon. Others stay behind the pulpit the whole time. A dynamic approach would vary movement and being still. And it's not haphazard, but rather intentional. Use the rostrum of the church to greatest effect. That's the stage area. So during exciting parts of the sermon, maybe move rapidly about, or during thoughtful moments, pause and reflect. If you have two contrasting ideas to share in the sermon, you can locate one idea on one side of the rostrum and the other idea on the other side, so that the congregation can visually distinguish the ideas through your use of the space. These are only a few ways you can foster dynamic in the delivery of your sermon. This takes thought and practice to get right. But when you get it right, your congregation will be able to truly hear the sermon. Your assignment for this episode is to take a sermon that you have completed. Look at that manuscript and then note, actually write into the manuscript of your sermon, note how you can create vocal and bodily dynamic at the key points of the sermon. I want to thank you for watching this series on preaching. I hope you've been challenged and blessed as you grow in your ability to faithfully preach the Word.